Alright, how's it going everybody? VikingsMan18 here. We are here to finally do our tier list of the games of the Resident Evil series that I just played in my marathon. We started this marathon about 3 months ago, I think. I think it was the end of February, right? And the goal was to get through all the main games in the series before the release of Resident Evil Village, which, as the time you're watching this, is tomorrow, the 7th. Super stoked for it. A couple of things about this list. There was a lot more games on here. Obviously, there's been a lot more Resident Evil games than I played in this marathon, because my whole point was I was just trying to do the main game in the series. And we finally got through it. So I took all the games that I didn't play, and the ones that weren't important, and I deleted them off the list. Here we have the games we did play. Keep in mind, this picture here is the original Resident Evil 3, so I think the person who made this list, this came out before the remake of 3 came out. So we're just going to count this one right here as the remake. I didn't play the original. So just to go through the list here, we have the Resident Evil 1 remake, Resident Evil 2 remake, 3 remake, 0, Code Veronica, 4, Revelations 5, Revelations 2, 6, and then RE7. Now, one thing of note, I did not play 7 in this marathon because I ran out of time. But I did play 7 on the channel a couple years back when it came out, and I recently watched a Twitch streamer by the name of CoCarnage. I'm sure most of you know who he is. I watched him play through 7 again, and I was watching him play through it over the last like week and a half, 2 weeks. And so I'm all caught up on that game, and I remembered pretty much all of it anyways. But without further ado, let's get to this list. I know I already have a couple of opinions that are probably gonna set some people off. Hopefully not, but we're just going to go in order here. Now, I can say there's not going to be any games in these bottom 2 lists here, because I can't say that there was any game on the game marathon that I did that I disliked. There were some I had issues with, definitely, but none that were that bad. So let's just start with Resident Evil 1 Remake, S tier. The game's amazing. I mean, there's not really much to say except they took the original game from '96, they remade it for the GameCube, and then they ported it, they remastered it in HD for the PS4, or Xbox One, sorry. And everything about the game is just fun. It's not too hard. It's all classic survival horror. Game's just fun, man. I mean, it's classic Resident Evil because it is Resident Evil. And I enjoyed every second of it when I played it. Resident Evil 2, also S tier. I would put it above the first game. Resident Evil 2, in my opinion, is the best one that I played. It was amazing, from the ground up. The only problem I had with it is that continuity-wise, when you play the way I played the game was Leon A, Claire B. There was a lot of continuity errors between it, and I know it's not that big of an issue. Like, I'm picking issues here. But I was a little disappointed that they didn't connect better. And what I mean by that is the story connected. But I didn't like how you had to solve the same puzzles pretty much twice. Like, how did Leon get through the statue puzzle with the 3 medallions, and then all of a sudden those medallions apparently were pulled out, put somewhere else, and now Claire has to find them. You know what I mean? But other than that, game was amazing. Resident Evil 3 Remake. I'm going to put that in the A tier. Solely for the reason, first off, the game's amazing, but this game felt so much more linear. And what I mean by that, in Resident Evil 2, there was a lot more, I feel like, exploration in the RPD. And, of course, you had the sewers and all that. I mean, I know the remake of 3 had the sewers, and of course you were outside, but the game felt so much more fast. It felt even shorter than a Resident Evil game, which Resident Evil games are already naturally very short once you learn how to play them. And I just wish it was longer. I did enjoy it, though, a lot. I talked about it when it first came out back in like April 2020 or whatever it was. I bought it on Xbox, and I actually 1,000-point achievement scored the game. I did everything. I think I don't want to say I was like speedrunning, because the speedrunning of Resident Evil is pretty simple. But I got it down to where I beat the Inferno mode in like an hour, and I posted that video on YouTube. You can still watch it. But I enjoyed it. Nothing really issue with it except it was short and too linear. Now, these next 2 games are going to be a little bit more interesting because I didn't actually play them. I watched them. because I ran out of time. So I did everything I could. Like I read synopsises of the story, I watched the cutscene movies, I did all that. I read like the whole plot thing on the Resident Evil wikis to make sure I got the gist of it. And both of them actually are going in the B category for me. I feel like there's a possibility it could have been higher if I actually played it hands-on, but the stories for both of them didn't really do anything for me. I don't really think they were that important. I know Code Veronica definitely more important than Zero, but yeah, I mean, I don't really have much to say about them because once again, I didn't really get to play them. But the stories were nice. Code Veronica, I think I enjoyed more than Zero, but it is what it is. Now, Resident Evil 4. E. No, I was joking. By many, the highest rated one in the series. The critically acclaimed. Everybody loved it. I actually had a lot of issues with this game, and don't worry, it's not low on the list. Couple issues I had. Well, first off, I don't have the nostalgia of this game. A lot of people I talk to who rate this game as the highest played it back in like 2004 when it came out. I didn't have that luxury just because I didn't play Resident Evil at the time. And I feel like in today's world, nostalgia puts a lot of blinders on people. I myself am a victim of that all the time. Like Final Fantasy VII, most people say it's the best one. I do too. It's also the one I played way back when. It was my first Final Fantasy game, so of course I'm going to say it's the best. But first issue I had with this game is the controls for 4 and 5 I wasn't big on because it was a mix of tank controls and yada yada yada. This is a small gripe, by the way. This didn't like ruin the game for me. Wasn't big on the controls. The story of Resident Evil 4, like Resident Evil 1, 2, and 3 were so simple in the fact that Umbrella is the bad guy. They are the worst human beings in the world, and our job is to take them down. I did not like how in the very beginning of 4, you're pretty much told, oh yeah, Umbrella canned a couple years back. I'm like, what? Like, we spent these first 3 games pretty much dealing with Umbrella and trying to figure this out, and then it happened off screen in a time jump between 98 and 2004. I had issues with that, but once again, I'm nitpicking here. I guess you guys just wonder where I'm going to put it. I'm going to put it in the A score. The game did what it needed to do, I think, to revitalize the series, because I can understand why at the time 1, 2, and 3 were so similar to each other that people were ready for a different change. It definitely went more Gunner style, but it didn't like kilter it too much, I feel, away from survival horror. Like, ammo was still had to get all the ammo. It wasn't a plenty. There was no difficulty setting, so you either played on normal or the hardest difficulty when I think you beat it on normal for the first time. And pretty much you just gotta be decent at the game. I raged a lot in the game because I didn't like how in a lot of areas the game just kept throwing enemy after enemy after enemy after enemy at you. That kind of annoyed me. The story was all over the place for me. I didn't really care for the story that much. Like, the whole like, I don't know. The game was fun. But if I'm being honest with you guys, I have no desire to ever go back and play it again. Which is, I mean, that's fine. Enough of that. I feel like that's a big burden off my chest. I gave it an A score, and I feel like people are still going to crucify me for not having it up in the S rank. But it is what it is. Revelations. Revelations was fun. I actually enjoyed it. We got to go back as Jill. And I quickly realized that the boat setting was getting very old for me. I kind of was getting tired of the game once we got through. I enjoyed it, definitely. But it was kind of, even though it was only like a 5-hour campaign, it was kind of running its course on me by the end of it. I'm going to give it a high B. Maybe. I'm going to give it a high B. I enjoyed everything about the game. It was running. I didn't do the raid mode or on it. That might have been Revelations 2. I think they both had it. The story was good, though. I enjoyed the story. But yeah, I'll give it a B. Nothing great. Not bad by any stretch of the means. Resident Evil 5. 5 I enjoyed more than I thought I would. In the sense that I was warned heavily about 5 and 6, especially 5 if you don't co-op the game, which I did not. I didn't have many AI issues, which was good. Keep in mind, I played the remastered versions of all these games. So I don't know if they updated the AI or whatever. I didn't have any issues with it. So I'm actually gonna give 5. I actually really enjoyed. I'm gonna put it up in the A tier too. And I know people are saying like 4 and 5 in the same tier. Oh my god. But yeah, I enjoyed 5. I thought it was fun. I enjoyed the story of 5 a lot more than I did 4, if I'm being honest with you guys. But yeah, I don't know if I enjoyed the game more than 4 because I do like Leon more than I do Chris. No, I think I enjoyed 4 more. Oh, by the way, going back to 4, I was dreading the fact that Ashley was in the game because I hate escort games. But the game actually did it very well, where they took her away for chunks at a time to where you were by yourself again. She was never really that much of a pain, so I didn't mind it that much. Revelations 2. Also B category, but I enjoyed it more than Revelations 1. The fact that they brought back Claire, which we hadn't seen since Code Veronica. They brought back Claire. They brought back Barry, who we haven't seen since Resident Evil 1. All of it was cool. Like, I enjoyed the story of it a lot. The extra episodes, did not care for at all. It was, The Struggle and Little Miss, I think they were called. I did not like them at all, but I'm not going to falter that. The main campaign of the game, great. Enjoyed all of it. Now, Resident Evil 6. I went into this game expecting to play the worst game in the series, like ever. I enjoyed it. I know that's a sin. 4 isn't my favorite game, and 6 I don't think is that bad, so I think I can admit it, like the 2 most Resident Evil cardinal sins in the world. But I didn't hate the game. It was... Okay, first off, it's B. I actually enjoyed it more than Revelations 1 and 2. How do I put this? I feel 2 ways about it. The only thing Resident Evil about Resident Evil 6 is the names of the characters and the references. If you took away Leon, Chris, Sherry, Hunnigan, all these people who we know, like, their names are engraved in Resident Evil lore. You take these people away, you just have an action game. Like, nothing about this game was Resident Evil except the names of the characters. It had a virus. What a shock. Global terrorist. We had to stop him. With that being said, it was a fun action game. Like, I didn't dislike any of it. I never thought I'd be flying a jet in Resident Evil. Never thought that would come up. But here we are. Flying a jet. So I took it with a grain of salt. I went in there with an open mind, which is what I wanted to do, because everybody told me I was going to hate it. I didn't. I enjoyed it. It was what it was. I thought the game ran a little bit too long than what it should have. Game was around like 16 hours. Way too long. It doesn't need to be that long. But it was a fun experience for me. I didn't ever have to play it and feel like I hated it. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't have to force myself to sit down and get through it. So that's always a good sign for me. I'm happy I walked away enjoying it. Just because I was like, oh, it's the longest game in the series. It's the worst rated one. I'm going to hate doing every second of it. I actually enjoyed playing it. So, not much more to say about that. Except that I'm happy they took a break between 6 and 7. I will say that. 6 was definitely not the style of games I want in the Resident Evil series. As an action game, it's fun, but it's not Resident Evil. And that's the other side of the view I was trying to say, because... I mean, 4 made the changes that were necessary to keep the series going. 5 is basically just a reskin of 4 with Chris. And 6 kind of just went above and beyond in the action series. There's nothing horror or survival horror about it. Maybe there's a couple cheap No, there's not even really any jump scares, to be honest with you. There's nothing. I don't think 4, 5, or 6 had many jump scares. But yeah, I mean, you guys get my point. That's all I'm really going to say about that. And then Resident Evil 7. It's S tier for me. I would say I enjoyed it more than the first one. Now, Resident Evil 7 was my first jump into the series. Actually, it was my very first jump into the series ever. Yes, I know. I played 7 before I played any of the other main games. I played it when it came out in 2017, And I didn't play another Resident Evil game until I played the first one. I talked about this in the first playthrough. I played the first one about a year ago, a little over a year ago, and I played that, and then I did 2. I played 2. But the first person's perspective, loved it. I love the setting. I love that it was its own self-contained story until the very end when Chris Redfield shows up. And everything about it was so fun to me. It went back to survival horror. Now at the time I didn't know it went back to it because I didn't play all the other ones. But I loved every second of it. I know a lot of people, I watch other people's rankings, and a lot of people had it in the A tier, and some even in the B. But I love this game so much. It's my second favorite Resident Evil game so far. 2 is the first one. 7 is the second, and first one is there. Pretty much you can rate all these games as you see them. That's the order of the way I like to play them. Or my favorite, I should say. And, I mean, that's pretty much it. Resident Evil Village is coming out tomorrow, guys. I'm super stoked for it. I'm so happy we did this marathon. I feel like I'm more prepared for it. Nothing in this game is probably going to connect to the earlier ones, but I don't care. I wanted to do this for myself. And that is my tier. I know a lot of you are going to disagree, and hopefully some of you agree with my list. So tell me what you guys think in the comments below, and I'll see you for Resident Evil Village here in the next couple days. Have a good one, guys.